Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tractor Man 44. Did you ever talk about wrinkles, or did you ever think about wrinkles? Not wrinkles like ladies talk about, but wrinkles as pertains to us guys on a job site. And by that, what I mean is, say you take a piece of 6-inch pipe. One piece of pipe doesn't have any wrinkles on it. The other end of the same piece of pipe has got wrinkles on it. Well, that's to allow, once they're assembled, this to become the male end to be inserted into the female end of the next piece of pipe. That's what the wrinkles are for. It kind of scrunches it down, allows the same size pipe to be installed into the next piece. Now when you cut off a piece of pipe, if you cut off a piece of pipe, hey, you don't have any wrinkles on either end. So what's our option? Well, let me show you a couple of options. The current and most accepted option today is you have these fancy set of wrinkle makers. Actually, they're called crimpers. They're not called wrinkle makers at all. But if you insert the piece of pipe inside the jaws and you work your way around the pipe, eventually you're going to have a set of male wrinkles that will now allow you to install it into a piece of pipe the same size. Now it's got 3 forks on one side, or 3 tines, and 2 tines on the other side, and it's universal. You can do it either way. I always prefer to put the 3 on the outside. I don't know why. It's just my own preference. There's no right way, no wrong way. You just got to do it. These are good, and they work fine, out in the field or on the job site. But when you're in the shop and you're making stuff, there is a much more viable option. Let's take a look at what that is. It's a very old hand crank machine that goes into fabrication shops. You can see you can just clamp it to the edge of your workbench, or a piece of 2x8 or 2x10 or 2x6 or whatever, and secure the board off the edge of the workbench. And then you've got an adjustment right here that will allow you to go more shallow or more deeply, with the piece of pipe that you're going to be crimping. This is a very movable crimp roll here, and it's adjusted by tightening this down or loosening it. That allows it to go up and down to make your bead more and more tightly crimped. And of course, it's got a reduction set of gears over on this other side, and it's very, very physically large. This thing's very uncomfortable to pack around. It'll weigh about 55 pounds or so, and it's not what you would consider exceptionally mobile. But we're going to take a look at that and see how well that does. Now, there's a company called Pexto and Wilcox Company. Eventually, I think Mr. Wilcox left, and Peck and Stowe maintained the company, and they eventually called it just Pexto. So let's take the other end of the same piece of pipe that I just crimped by hand, and we're going to put that in there. There's a couple of ways to do that. You can do it a little bit at a time, or you can tighten it down exceptionally tight and do it with one pass. So let's just try it reasonably tight. And we just turn the crank, and what you need to do is you need to make sure that guide, this pipe, stays up against that guide. And we'll turn the crank around in a circle. You don't cross the joint, you come up to the joint and stop. Back this off of here, and here you have a reasonably good set of crimps. I probably did it a little bit too tight, because you can see how I buckled that a little bit. I don't typically do them in one pass. I usually sneak up on it, like make 3 circles, just a little bit more at a time. And I think this particular one makes a nicer bead that way. Well, that's one option right there. And this is a very old one here. Serial number on it is 2/54. Now, I don't know if that means February of 1954 or whatever. An improved version of that same exact tool down there. It's also a Pexto and Wilcox. It has a serial number of 10/56. So it could be 1952 on the old one and 56 on this one. I don't know. I thought they were both older than that, but I just don't know. But this is basically exactly the same machine, with the exception of the huge, heavy gear train that it has on the other one is non-existent on this one. I can pick this one up with one hand and just walk off with it, carrying it like a toolbox. It's just not heavy at all. This one probably weighs in about 15 pounds or so, and it's much more mobile. But at any rate, it's still got the same gauge on it right here for setting the depth of your material. But one thing it's got in addition to the other one is it's got a set of bead rolls in addition to the crimp rolls, and those actually come off of the end, so you can physically take those off. So I'm assuming that at one time there might have been bead rolls that were available for that older machine, but I don't know that for a fact. This is my favorite one. I've used it many times just because I could throw it in a truck and just take it with me. And I don't normally crank them down exceptionally tight. So So let's just do a little bit at a time on this one right here, because we do have the bead along with it. There's a much more neatly shaped set with the reinforcing bead that'll stop it once you slide it into the other piece of pipe. So this one is my favorite machine right here. I like this one here. Let's make the first pass a little more light. Just a little more snug. So here you have it. Here's the options. This is the one handmade with the hand seamers. You can take your time and make it a little neater. It doesn't really matter. This is the one that we made on the older machine without the beads, and then this one here is the one that we made on the newer old machine with the bead rolls in addition to the crimper rolls. And you can see how obviously much more superior this is as compared to the hand farmed or even the old one. The old one still does a good job. If you've got nothing else, to use, it's by far better than the crimpers. Like I said, like I tell y'all all the time, keep your eyes open, at old farm auctions or estate sales, something like that. You find these things quite frequently. A lot of times the auctioneers don't even know how to list what it is, because most time, unless it's an auctioneer that has some tradesman experience, doesn't even know what he's looking at, especially in these farm auctions, And so consequently, you just have to keep your eyes open and always dig in the corners and see what you can find. Virtually every machine I've got like this, came from a farm auction or a situation where they were sold pennies on the dollar, you know what I mean? So that's all I can tell you, I like to do things as frugally as possible. I like to have the right tools to do the job, and I don't care if the tools are new. I would like to have some new tools, and I got a few, but the old tools is just as good, takes a little bit more time sometimes, but if you don't mind working on stuff, and kind of using a little bit of WD-40 and a little bit of lubricant every now and then, it's quite the pleasure to use old machinery. Well, all I can tell you guys is just keep your eyes peeled. And sometimes when you least expect it, you can come across something that you can pick up for, a buck or two, throw it in the corner of your shed, and when you least expect it, you can use it, to help yourself or to help somebody else, and that kind of gives everybody a good warm feeling, So at any rate, you know what? This is Tractor Man 44, and I am out of here.